Well, welcome. Good to have you. We, of course, were out last month on our sabbatical, and we're going to talk about that just a little bit tonight, maybe a lot, depending on how much you want to converse about it. This is a forum, so we look forward to your input, find out where you are and what the Lord is saying to you, and that's our key to growth is hearing the Father's voice. So thank you, Melinda, Deborah, John, Dominique, Hillary, uh, Dr. Jim, all of you for coming in, and others. We haven't done a great job of really promoting or broadcasting or notifying on this month's deal. So we thought, well, it might be a smaller group than usual, and that's quite all right. That makes it easier to be a forum.
Gives us more
Easy,
of a chance to hear from everybody.
easier for everybody to talk. So we were just saying how we're in a series where we're really learning to possess our vessel with sanctification and honor. And we're going to start, it's really a series on healing, but we're going to start with the natural end of that spectrum. How do I take care of my body in such a way that makes healing the natural byproduct as well as a spiritual byproduct? And we often quote chiropractor that was on our board for some time, our ministry board, that had a sign up on his wall that said, God doesn't need any help in your
Make you well.
to make you well. He just needs no interference. And so we're talking about ways that the things that we eat and the things that we do, lack of rest, overstimulations or whatever, that end up hindering our health. And so, as we said, that's sent quite a vibration through our congregation. Everybody's talking about it. I think because it's really where we all live. We all have to make those decisions of what we're eating and how we're taking care of our bodies, and that's a wonderful thing. We were given a real gift by our leadership team of 5 weeks of sabbatical. I've been in the ministry now for 46 years and have never had a sabbatical. So that was a tremendous blessing for me. Cheek and I kind of almost didn't know what to do with ourselves. So we wanted to steward our time and put ourselves on something of a schedule and regimen. It took us a few weeks to realize, oh, we're supposed to be resting. so I want to share with you one of the key things that the Lord really spoke to me about. And I'm going to borrow the terminology from um, Dallas Willard. I think it started with him. He calls it the spiritual discipline of slowing, the spiritual discipline of slowing. And the Lord really spoke a word to me toward the end of the sabbatical that said, Carrie, the reason you have difficulty remembering many of the events of your earlier life is that you were running too fast to think much of them. And I graduated from high school a semester early because I was so in a hurry to get to college. And then I graduated, of course, from college a semester early to get to, my first steps in adult life in ministry, and then went on to senior pastor and just, trying to get to the next thing. And that really is an orphan characteristic. Can't settle into where you are, can't really enjoy where you are because you always feel the impulse to get to the next thing. And what I've learned since then is that one of the key ways that I discern the difference between the voice of God in my spirit and the voice of my soul or my emotions is that emotions touches this natural realm of time and space. And so impulse becomes a factor in the soul. When you hear something that says, I got to do it now or I'm going to miss it, it's like the red apple sale, it's, get here and buy it now or you're going to miss it. It'll be too late. It's the way marketing makes their living. They have to convince you that there's something that you need that you don't have. And then they have to convince you that they have what you need and you need to buy it right now. Well, that's impulsiveness and that's soulish. In eternity, and our spirits live in eternity already. We're already in the kingdom, and there's no time or space there. And so, as you can understand, down in your spirit, what the water calls still waters of peace, reflective waters, there's no hurry. And so the Lord said, Carrie, and part of what triggered this was that I've got my 50th high school reunion coming up in 2 weeks. And I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about who am I going to see there and who do I know and do I remember anybody there and will I remember any events that we had together? And I began to realize that I was so plugged into my church and so totally consumed with being a good Christian. And that's not meant to be in a critical way, but really committed. We were there all day Sunday night, Wednesday night, other things. That I didn't participate in a lot of the things at school. And because of that, I don't have a lot of memories. And so the Lord was using that to talk to me about slowing down. If you want to remember your life, if you want to value the days of your life and the people of your life, then slow down to enjoy it. So the discipline of slowing. I'm going to give you a couple of things here. I've actually got a page of thoughts, but Cheeky warns me, and I know I can end up doing all the talking, and this is a forum. I want to hear from you. So what I'd like to ask you to do, I'm going to go through a few points, and if there's something you want to inject or a question to ask or give us a story from your history, then raise your hand or do the little wave on the bottom of the screen for participation. Cheeky will watch that as well as jump in here herself. So I'm going to share a few things, and some of them are a little more funny than anything else, but it's what the Lord's saying to me. Gandhi, of course, the leader in India for many years, says there's more to life than increasing the speed. There's more to life than increasing the speed. We've got a low battery here, so we're going to have to shift. I think you just need to take this, babe, and plug it in right there. Cheeky is the great troubleshooter. So there's more to life. Either one. There's more to life than increasing the speed. Cultivating patience and deliberately choosing to place ourselves in positions where we simply have to wait. This is what the discipline of slowing is about. Hey, Jeremy, the discipline of slowing, I'm going to give it to you again. Cultivating patience and deliberately choosing to place ourselves in positions where we simply have to wait. Oh, I hate that. I can't tell you how that wears against my natural man. I hate to stand in line for food. I can't stand to go somewhere where I have to stand in line to place an order. I want it, now. And so the Lord is working on me. And of course, it took me getting old, I guess, to begin to realize I'm missing so many things, so many people. If I hadn't written the names down, I wouldn't be able to remember them. And names become more and more of an issue. So the issue is to slow your body down. Slow your body down. When you slow your body down, everything else then will tend to speed up for a little bit before it slows down too. We're embodied creatures and we live for now in space and time. What we do now must be super strategic, super important, because we have such a small little space of time, and then we step into eternity, which is everything. And if we ever get that eternal perspective of how little time we have here compared to eternity, then we'll realize that this must be very, very strategic. The decisions we're making, the connections we make, the relationships we make. But to do those well, this is what I'm learning. Have I got it down? No, I don't have it down. I'm still back and forth on it. But to slow down, we begin to see what's valuable. Slow down our bodies, to walk in the now, in this space and time context we have where we get to make an eternal impact on people. Acknowledging and managing our limitations glorify God. Think about this. Acknowledging and managing our limitations actually glorifies God. It keeps us in a place where we say, there is a God, but I'm not him. I can't do it all. I can't be everywhere. I can't do everything. There is a God. And so what it's led me to through the years is when people come and ask for advice and ask for counsel and ask for prayer, more and more, instead of trying to give them that advice or that answer, to say, what's the Father saying to you about that? And you're very familiar with that. So here's some things I was reading. I shouldn't admit it, but I was reading too many books during the sabbatical. Okay, I had a stack of books I wanted to read, and we did a lot of reading. This comes from a book about sabbatical and about taking Sabbath, about taking rest, and so some of these are mine, some of these are the authors. Number one, this is his Drive the Speed Limit. That's a killer. That's just a killer for me. I'm sorry.
In Texas.
I'll confess right now. When you've got a long straight road and not a whole lot to look at, it's difficult for me. Drive the speed limit, not below the speed limit or you get run over. Above the speed limit, you're probably in the flow of traffic, but it's still above the speed limit. So it's a silly but effective way for us to detox our body in this idea that I've got to get there fast. And sometimes I'm driving in the passing lane and I'm driving maybe 80 miles an hour. It's true, right? It's true. 80 miles an hour. And I'm thinking, why am I in a hurry to pass that car? We don't have anything waiting for us, that we're not running to an engagement. We're going to see family, friends. So I want to just stop here on this one and ask for a show of hands. I know we've got some that your face is not in the screen, but if you wanted to open up your camera here for just a second, let us see. First question is, how many of you find yourself most of the time in the passing lane? The passing lane is far left, fast. Even if you're not passing anybody, you like to drive in the, okay, that's most of us. How many of you like to find that middle lane? It's supposed to be, the flow of traffic. How many of you like to find the middle lane and just kind of stay there, even if you're behind a truck? Nobody raised their hand, not a person. How many of you like to rock it out with grandma in the right lane behind the Walmart semi truck? Anybody like to get over there in the right lane and just kind of put it on? Michael does that. Oh, good. I'm glad you told on him. That's great.
I could just see Hillary saying, let me drive, please.
Scoot over. Rock it out with grandma behind the Walmart semi truck. I love that. And I've been doing that some. Not a lot, but we've gone down to Austin during our sabbatical. We went down to Austin. We went down to Houston to see kids and grandkids. And I pulled over into the right lane just to see what it was like. Gave me the heebie-jeebies, but I stayed over there as long as I could, just trying to feel the slowdown. And Cheeky was rather proud of me, I think, for some of that anyway. Drive the speed limit. Secondly, move over into the slow lane intentionally. Okay, we've already talked about that. When you're in the slow lane, guess what happens? When you're in the slow lane, you begin to see things you've never seen before. When you're in the slow lane, things are coming to you slower speed. You have time, reaction time to look around just a little bit and stay on the road. When you slow down, you see more. That's a line I want to underscore for you because I think it's true in life. When you slow down, you see more.
Andres, this is good for you to realize what a gift you have to drive in Bogota, where you can slow down and see everything around you. See, God's been giving you a gift for so many years, and you just didn't realize it.
Everybody know what the Chinese fire drill is, where the car stopped at the intersection and everybody gets out and runs around and gets back in? Well, Andres can do that in the middle of traffic, not even at an intersection. He can do that almost any time in Bogota. Get out, run around the car, jump back in. You're still right there. You can actually walk. If you're in Bogota proper, you can walk and get there faster. Slow down and see more. Thirdly, come to a full stop at stop signs. Isn't this spiritual? Now, this is the discipline of the Holy Spirit telling me that you're going to remember more, you're going to see more, you're going to experience more of me if you slow down. And so I've taken that as a real challenge from the Lord. Is there something spiritual about it? Well, there's discipline to it. I'm usually in a hurry when I'm going somewhere, and so I'm having to leave earlier, stop at the stop signs. I don't stop for 5 seconds and look, but I want to pull up to a stop, right? It's just a simple thing that I haven't done for years, and I want to learn how to do it again. I'm learning the importance of every day.
You know, this is going to be a confession kind of session.
The whole thing is a confession. This is why the Lord's speaking it to me. Fourthly is put away your phone. Put away your phone unless navigation is needed. Put away your phone. So especially when driving, of course, texting is illegal anyway. That's the next one is don't drive and text. It's illegal anyway, but why do we think it's so important? Sometimes because I realize I'm going to be late and I think I need to text somebody in advance and tell them, hey, I'm going to be 5 minutes late. But I need to pull over to do that, right? Need to pull over to do that. So texting and driving is hard to explain from a hospital bed. It's just hard to explain. So we want to slow down. I've developed a habit now, and this actually began before the sabbatical. I've been developing the habit of turning my phone off. And if I need to charge my phone, I do that in another room. Part of that is the radiation that happens from our 5G phones now. I don't want it within 10 feet of my head. So I'll put it in the other room to charge it. And at least if it's there, I just turn it off. You say, well, what about waking up in the morning? Well, when I was in my teens, I was reading E.W. Kenyon, a book called Signpost on the Road to Success. And he talked about training his spirit man to wake him up in the mornings. So I thought, well, that's a very interesting idea. I wonder if that works. And so ever since I've been 15, 16 years old, I tell my spirit when I want to get up. And now that I'm older, I get up too many times anyway. So, I don't even have to do it that way. But I don't use an alarm clock to get up. That doesn't make me super spiritual. It's just I can afford to turn my phone off and I'm not worried about missing some alarm.
It's also the possibility of getting a different kind of alarm clock. That's not the phone.
This is true. This is true. What a novel idea. I wonder if they make those. Here's another one. Show up 10 minutes early. Show up 10 minutes early. This is a matter of managing our time and honoring others. When we're late to meetings, sometimes we think, well, I'm just so busy. I got here as soon as I could. We might not realize that we're dishonoring the time of the people that are waiting for us. And I put that on 2 different people today. I'm more confession. I had a couple of Zoom calls today that I missed. And so people are waiting, and so I hate that. I feel horrible when I do that. And then I forgive myself. So try to get there early. My younger brother is a master at being at least 15 minutes early to every appointment. And so I asked him, why do you do that? You just kind of sit there and play games on your phone or what? He says, no, it gives me a chance to think about why I'm having this meeting and what I'm going to say and to be present in the meeting when I'm there. So he's really about being meticulous in his business that he does. Show up 10 minutes early. Anybody else do that? Anybody you've cultivated a habit of getting there early? Yeah. Good. Andres, Melinda, Dominique, everybody but me. I feel great. Andres, tell us what is your thinking about getting there 10 minutes early? What do you do at that time?
I always love to be early as possible. And I think that is not only honoring the time of the other person, but I can be prepared. I can be ready. I can be praying for the people. Normally I have a lot of appointments. Mm-hmm. And I try to, make a distance between each appointment so I can have the time to pray for the Lord to guide me. What do you want me to say to this person? What do you want me to look at? What is the real point of this thing? So is for me is I can get rid of a stress,
Yeah.
and I can be whole in that meeting.
And you can have a Colombian coffee in the 15 minutes before.
Of course. That means that I have to leave my house like an hour and a half in advance to get there.
Yeah.
So true.
I was thinking putting all these together. If you're going to drive the speed limit, go in the slow lane, all of that, and still be early, it really requires a lot of planning and quite a
Yeah.
bit of discipline to do it. But
And you
why
can only
not?
book 2 meetings a day.
Yeah, that's right.
Anybody else have something you want to inject? Jim, are you lifting up your hand there? Maybe not. Okay.
It's catching up. Were you trying to reach out to me?
Jeremy,
So I was just
do you have
saying,
something you want to share?
Oops.
See your Hollywood mug there on that picture, but
hello.
I'm here.
share some wisdom with us. Do you get to
Well,
any?
can you repeat the question, Carrie?
Yeah, let's do Jim first and then Jeremy. But the question is, do you have a habit of showing up early to meetings, and why? Like, what do you do with that
What do you
extra
use the
time? What's
time for?
what's the purpose of that? So
Yeah.
since we had asked Jim to speak first, we'll go Jim and then you, Jeremy. Okay.
Jim, you ready?
Well, first of all, with traffic, you might start out with the intention of being early, but you don't know if you're going to be early.
Right.
So,
Very true.
and then I guess I would rather welcome the person coming than having to make a excuse that was late. So, but just like what was said before, just preparing, getting your mindset, and just listen to the Lord to see again, if there is a special word that He wants
Good.
me to say, and
Excellent.
just welcome His presence at every meeting.
You bet.
You can't do that when you're running late.
That's right. That's right. If you want to feel good about yourself, if that means something to you, being there when somebody shows up, being able to greet them, hug them is better than running in late and trying to talk about how busy you've been. Right. So which looks more like a son, which looks more like an orphan? Well, depends on if that's a built-in characteristic, something you've developed or something that happens accidentally. Like you say, you can always predict what's going to happen between here and there. Jeremy, do you have something you want to add? You muted yourself again, but the question.
Yeah, I thought you actually called upon me. I misheard. So, anyways,
Right.
yeah. So we try. Holly's here too, but we try to show up early. Just for, I think you already mentioned, just honoring the person, honoring their time, and I think that it shows just a value, that we value their time, that we value who they are. A lot of times, if we're showing up for group things, we want to show up early so that we can connect. We use those times before as connection times, as checking in. We do this in every morning gathering that we have. We have people that we're connecting with both before and after, and engaging and giving those, beautiful 10-second hugs, and then also kind of praying in the Spirit and seeking what the Lord would have us know for the meeting. If there's something that He's particularly wanting to do, that we can follow His lead. If there's something that He wants us to know about an individual that we're getting to meet with. And so we create some of that space as much as we can.
Really good. It's really good.
It's really a trait of sonship that I see here is other-centeredness. And it's really, what's interesting to me is how the orphan spirit, the enemy through the orphan spirit, wants us to always be in a hurry, which really is a very self-centered thing. Right? It's very self-centered. Like, I'm controlling my time. It's about me. It's about my time. It's about when I get there. It's about being first. It's about all of those are self-centered traits. And the idea of slowing down, letting others pass you as you're driving, that's a scary thing. Showing up early, making plans for the sake of the other is they're very other-centered sonship orientation. So,
I know there's nobody else has had this thought, but when we've traveled down to Houston or Austin or someplace before, there are times when I wouldn't want to take an exit off to get a cup of coffee because I didn't want all those folks that I had passed to pass me up, so I would have to pass them again. Is that crazy or what? Oh, here's another one. This may come a little more close to home for all of us, and it's something that I'm doing now that is a radical shift for me. It seems so simple, but it's a radical shift, and it is to avoid self-checkout. Avoid self-checkout. I'm talking about in the grocery stores where you have the option to either do the checkout yourself or to go to a line and let somebody else do it. I've decided that I'm going where I can, and when I can, I'm going to avoid self-checkout for the purpose of relating to someone that's there and working. So to stand in a line and to wait may be the longest line. I get to talk to several people in that line. How many people do I get to connect with in the role that I'm in outside of church? Not that many. So I have to be intentional to connect with people in that way. And so not only myself, but one of the teams that I'm in, we've decided this is not only a physical thing, but it's an emotional, mental, spiritual thing. Avoid self-checkout. Get it? Avoid checking yourself out of the opportunities to touch people. So this is an idea. Get in the longest checkout line that you can find, talk to as many people as you can, and see what comes out of those conversations. Lord, we pray, we're in here prayer in the mornings, and we're praying, Lord, let us meet somebody today that needs what we have. Lord, let us touch somebody today. And then we hit the self-checkout line and we never talk to anybody all day long because we're taking the fastest way out. Now, today I ran into a grocery store. Chiki was with me, so I knew she was in the car waiting, and she had a lot of work to do when we got back to the house. And so I did the self-checkout, talked to the lady that oversees the self-checkout, but I broke my own rule there because of that situation with my wife. One more. Be a master over your smartphone. I think this is huge for us, and especially for the generation that's to come. I was doing a little background search and some research. Our children, on average, will touch their phone either to see how their likes or their followers or whatever. Will touch their phone about 3,000 times a day. The statistics right now say that the average young person is doing screen time with their phone 7 hours a day. Well, you can see whatever's on that screen is what's discipling our kids, no matter how much we're talking to them, taking them to church. 2 hours in church, 1 day a week doesn't stand a chance against 7 hours a day. And the same is true for us as adults. We're more and more, you lay that phone there whether it's on the desk or, especially if we're eating lunch and it's laying right there. How many times do you reach for it? You don't even think about it. It's not even why. So master the smartphone. Reading this author, he's a young man about 40 years old, and he's got a couple of younger children, and he's developed the habit. He's a pastor. He's developed the habit of gathering all the smartphones up at 8 o'clock in the evening, put them in a shoebox. All the phones go in a shoebox at 8, and they stay there until the next morning after they've had breakfast together. Then on Saturday, they do a regular kind of Shabbat on Saturday. When the sun goes down on Friday night, they gather up the smartphones, put them in a closet, and they don't look at their phone at all day Saturday until the sun goes down Saturday night. That's not my conviction, but I think that's something he is doing with his family that's having a major impact. And it causes them, according to his story, to spend much more time outside, much more time together, much more time hiking. What has been your experience with your smartphone? What are some of the things that you use, some of the tips or habits that you use to keep your smartphone as a servant and not a master?
You're hitting home there for me. Dominic, you want to say that? Or
Okay. So, yeah, for me, it's been, when phones first came out, I saw how people were seeing or having these phones as their God. They were definitely idol worshiping their phone. And so I decided early on that I would never make the phone important to me. I would keep it as small as possible. And I actually have very little to do with it. And here lately, growing with the Holy Spirit, started to look at all the screens, and is what I'm seeing actually real? Is it a real relationship? Is it really something that is building connection? And most of the time it is not. And so I've even set my TV down I lowered its position in my life to almost zero for the last it's only been the last couple of weeks, but it's really made a big difference. More time for God. Quite
Yes.
a bit more time for God.
Yeah. More peace of mind when you go to bed. You don't have a lot of that, a lot of those tragic events floating through your mind and creating dreams that you don't want to have, all those kinds of things. Anybody else? Your experience with your smartphone and
I'll
any
still-
way that you're using it or not using
I'll
it?
share some. It's not exactly an experience of using it or not using it, but there was with the Olympics happening in the summer. I'm trying to summarize this. There was something that happened at the Olympics that then there was a chatter about in social media. And I remember one morning I was just like, that was just going through my mind. And I was just thinking, man, this world is so messed up and I'm getting all bent out of shape about this conversation that was going on and how it shouldn't be and da 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 da. And I was just sort of like frustrated with how crazy our world is. And Holy Spirit said, if you hadn't been looking at social media, you wouldn't even know those things are going on and you wouldn't be distraught at all. And it really is so interesting how now we it's almost like we think the world is far worse than it's ever been. And to some degree it is. But part of it is simply that it's been magnified because we're aware of everything that's going on. Otherwise, like if I look at my world, the world is a good place right now, right? We have a good community. We live in a good neighborhood. We have a lot of peace and tranquility. Still, like if I'm not looking at social media, I wouldn't be aware of all the craziness that's out there. But we keep getting bombarded. So one of the things that the Lord spoke to us a couple of Sundays ago was that my voice is still louder than all the chatter that you're hearing. My voice is still more powerful. So listen to what I'm saying, declare what I'm saying, be bold about it. Don't let all the chatter out there. And I think it takes some slowing down and some intentionality to shut down those voices so that we can enter into that rest.
Right. You know, there's a kind of a key word that runs through the scriptures, especially the Old Testament, that refers to floods out of the mouth of the enemy, floods of waters. And when you trace that down, you'll find that the floods are actually the many voices that are speaking to distract us from the Father's voice. And so, yes, I see it, baby. So when we are hearing all these voices, then we will get overwhelmed with those floods. His voice is to be the flood that we live in. It gives us life. Yes, Hillary.
So I set a reminder on my phone for 5 minutes of every hour so that if I'm able, I would stop everything and connect.
Wow.
Just kind of, all right, listen, here's what I'm thinking. Here's the undercurrent. And then just check in and have a dialogue. Sometimes that was quick, sometimes that was long. The revelations that were flowing were tremendous. And I found myself, like, especially since October 7th, the headlines, my preoccupation with what's going on, especially in the Middle East, has been pretty distracted. And I asked the Lord, is this bringing me closer to you? And he said, is it? You know, so it was really up to me whether or not that was bringing me Like, is that driving me into prayer, or is that,
Yeah.
so even today in my own receiving, usually I'm facilitating, but my own receiving heart healing encounter with the Lord came the word agitating passions.
Mm.
And so I'm like, I think that's in the Amplified. And so just began diving into that, 1 Peter 3, 2 Peter 3. And so saw how just today, like how agitating passions have really, there's just been this open door,
Mm.
and how that has nothing to do with the mind of Christ. And in fact, I have responded less and less to that 55-minute past the hour little chime. I would never allow myself, if I was able, to not stop everything and check in. And I allow myself a lot lately. So today was very good for him to say this whole
Wow.
agitating passions thing. And that, yeah.
Very interesting.
Wow.
A phrase the Lord gave me right at the end of our sabbatical was, I think the counter to that, and it was dynamic relaxation. Dynamic relaxation. And the Lord was saying to me, I've called you to rest. I've called you to live in relaxation. It doesn't mean you're motionless. It doesn't mean that you're not doing anything. It doesn't mean you're inactive. It's not inactivity. It's not even passivity, but it's dynamic relaxation. It's living what I've called you to do, but in a place of rest. I'm living into that. I'm pressing into that. But when you said what you did, Hillary, that came right back to me. Dynamic relaxation. Anybody else? I appreciate the input.
One thing,
I wa-
I'm sorry.
Go
no,
ahead.
no, no, you go ahead.
One thing that the Lord's really spoken to me in regards to my phone is taking, Romans 8:28 speaks to me so often. And so just taking what some feel is what the enemy meant for bad, that all the distractions and the focus and making the phone an idol and turning it into good. I use it as a tool to communicate just words of encouragement to people throughout the day as I'm working for different clients and helping different people with health issues. I'll just ask the Lord, what do you want to say to them? And I'll just text them something that's encouraging, and that's been a real blessing for a lot of people.
Very powerful.
So good.
Yeah. I picked up the habit that Hillary was doing, just put a reminder on my phone 5 times a day. And I asked myself, what are you feeling? What are you sensing? I'm trying to connect with the mood, the emotion. Am I in control of it, or is it in control of me? So 5 times a day that would pop up. I'd stop, think about that, breathe, relax, dynamic relaxation. Make sure that I'm connected with my body, with my mind, with my spirit, what's going on around me. So that's a way to make the phone a powerful, positive tool.
Yeah, and it's true. Like the phones in and of themselves are neither good nor bad. It's how we use them. And, that makes a difference. So.
I found that I can't use the Bible on my phone for morning devotions because I end up scrolling on something. So yesterday, Saturday, it's a day that I study and pray and prepare for Sunday. I didn't look at my phone until 4:30 in the afternoon. Do I miss some things? Of course I do, but it's not things that I would tend to on Saturday anyway. So there's places we have to get control of it. The next one would be set a time limit on TV and all social media. That's a no-brainer. Oh yeah, we had Andres wanted to say something there. Sorry.
Yeah, it's a couple of things, because the last week we went with Natalia because we were in the 23rd anniversary.
Congratulations.
Wedding anniversary. So we went to this place in Colombia, in the Pacific, to take a look at the whales.
Yeah.
And that was amazing in so many different ways. But the most amazing thing is that there is no cellular signal in that place. So for 3 days, the cell phones were only for the camera, And it was a moment, and it's going to be so funny to say that because I have my daughter here by me, by next to me. So for one moment, one day, we forgot that we have children.
Look at
And it
that
was,
beautiful little girl right there.
yeah, she's my beautiful daughter.
Hi, sweetie.
Yeah, say hi to everyone.
Hi.
So for that moment, I remember that we were enjoying that moment as a couple, and you know, as individuals, looking at the you know, the nature and the whales and the ocean and everything. That was so amazing. And by night, I remember that we were, you know, like walking with Natalia, and I was like, ah, do you remember we have 3 kids? So when we got to this place and we have a signal like 3 days later, we realized that nothing wrong happened,
Yes.
nothing bad happened, and because Abba was in control of everything.
Yeah. So
That was amazing. The
That's-
tranquility and all of the peace and all of the, you know, all of the focus that we were in that moment. That was amazing. And in the other hand, we have a 15 years old son, and you know, he asked us for a phone, but he didn't want to have a smartphone. He wanted to have the old Nokia
Mhm.
because he had, you know, like looking at the all of the disaster that they may be, you know, like to exposed to, not only to mass media, but also with the chatting apps with all of the pals. And he at the beginning, well, I found a Nokia, an old Nokia. I found it in a place
phone?
here. Yeah, the phone. And it's only, you know, they have only Tetris and this, we call that culebrita in Colombia. I don't know how to say snake,
Ah,
the
fool, yeah.
snake game.
Yeah.
Okay. And at the beginning, he was like, "Oh, this is my phone." But now he's a legend at the school. Everybody wants to play with the snake game and the Tetris. Everyone's and he's free of the apps,
Yeah.
and he's connected with us through
Yeah,
that kind of phone.
good.
So that's something amazing. And you know, it's sometimes it's really hard to be disconnected, because we as pastors, we have a lot of people that is, you know, like looking for us because they need to, you know, like not only to connect with us, but to something to I don't know how to say that, but they need to be connected. I don't know, I'm still in that gray zone, that I don't know if it's gonna be good to be so disconnected or not.
Right.
That's something that is happening right now in
It's
my life.
a constant tension, isn't it? I don't know that there's an answer. I think there's a voice that we listen to, and that may change.
I think it's interesting. Carrie always tells the story of a pastor that would mow the yard wearing a suit and tie in case somebody from the church needed him while he was doing that. And so we laugh about that, about, you know, how ridiculous it is to feel that. But then as Andres was sharing that, I think, well, carrying my cell phone wherever I go is really not that different. It's just like, just in the event that somebody might need me right this moment.
This pastor was pastoring a little church in a small town down in deep South Texas. And he actually made the front page of the town newspaper, big picture on the front page of the town. He's riding a lawnmower, mowing the church lawn in a tie and a suit. And he didn't want anybody in town to ever see him without his suit and tie on. Well, those days are gone, and hopefully we're not bound to that. Jim, your thoughts?
Oh, you're muted now.
Now you're
I would say first thing that helps not to be tied to your phone is that I'm not connected with any social media, so I don't have any pages to look at that way. But also one tool is, this is my source for worship songs, and so through the day, it just gets me centered on the Lord. I used to go to sleep with some music, and the timer would be set for 20 minutes, but I would never be awake long enough to know the last song until I look in the next morning.
That's cool.
But
That's good.
I guess more recently, with Shirley's help, I moved the phone away from my bed, so it wouldn't be exerting any radiation at that time. So now, unlike you, Carrie, when I hear the alarm, I jump up and have to run 25 feet away to get the phone off. But
That's your
I'm
way to
up.
wake up.
That's a good way. Up and at 'em.
So, and then like Hillary, again, there's thoughts of people that the Lord brings, and then you text a message or a verse or a word or just how are you doing, and seeing how they are. So like I said, the only other tool that I use is the Blue Letter Bible,
Mhm.
and I like to study that way, and also because you can do different translations also on my
Sure.
Bible app. Then I want to use it that way. But the one thing I still have to guard against is seeing a news article, or occasionally sports draws me to this phone in the wrong way. But I try not to.
It's the danger,
It's interesting.
but we can master it.
Yeah, what you're saying, Jim, reminds me of a very simple thing to do, at least something that helped me, is like I have certain social media apps, and there was a season where there was one particular app where I was getting a lot of news information through. And I started realizing I was spending way too much time on it and going down some rabbit holes that I didn't want to be going down, stuff like that. Just turned off the notifications for it. And so we can turn off the notifications on all of these apps, which means that I'm in control of when I go to it, and it's not beckoning me to go to it all the time. Once I turn the notifications off, it's like I forget that it's there. And so just something that simple is manage the notifications. And I also always put my phone on do not disturb overnight. So I don't hear it dinging or ringing or anything, even if I don't have to turn it off, but it's still in do not disturb mode. So
yeah, I've got a lot of things on do not disturb mode, and I don't know how to turn them back on. So I'm missing some things. I'm gonna give you like 5 last points. Not going to talk about them, but see if you want to talk about one of them. I'm just going to put them out there, and then you can respond how you want to. And what is this about? Here again, we're talking some very practical things. But the reality is, the busier and the louder our world gets, Paul said even 2,000 years ago, so many voices in the world. The louder it gets around us, the more we have to discipline ourselves to tune into his voice, so that we're actually walking in a different rhythm. We're walking in a different pace. We're walking with him in a cadence with, as one translation says, the rhythms of his grace. So this leads me to number 9 is walk slowly. Walk slowly. I've kind of prided myself in getting everywhere I go fast, walk fast, get there fast. For what reason? Walk slowly. I remember years ago, Tommy Barnett, a pastor at First Assembly in Phoenix, Arizona, huge church, and have a big pastors conference every year. And I'm there one year, and he just talked about walking slowly through the crowd. He's telling young pastors, I know you're busy, I know you're in a hurry, but the best thing you can do when your church family's together is walk slowly through the crowd. Take time, touch people, be touchable, be accessible, walk slowly. And then take a regular day of solitude. Now here's kind of the last 3 are all in the same basket. And it really means having to look in the long range of our season or our year. What does it take for us to take one day a week to really have a Sabbath? Not calling Sabbath a Saturday or a Sunday or whatever day, a day where you stop and you reflect. What's Sabbath about? Look back on the previous week and see where God's hand has shown up in your life. What did God do the previous 6 days? That's what he showed us. He modeled that for us. It must be important. So what does it take for us to have a day a week where we can disengage, not have to be at everything that everybody has scheduled on their schedule, and where you can slow down, take a regular day of solitude, then cultivate a habit of meditating the scriptures. Nothing will help you to take these breaks than a pattern, a habit of meditation. I said it to our church last Sunday. I think it is the lost art in the church. It is the thing God talked about the most that we do the least, meditating in the word day and night, and then taking time to just pull that aside. And we've put these meditation books together so that people would have something in hand, easy to get to, easy to meditate, renewing the mind in sonship, renewing the mind in the Father's love and provision and those things. And then get serious about a vacation that is not only different activities from what you're used to, but nothingness for at least 2 or 3 days, nothingness to the point of boredom. You know where creativity begins? When you hit boredom. When you really get bored, then you'll begin to get ideas to do things that you've not done before. So, you know, our 5 week was maybe a once in a lifetime deal of 5 weeks. And we spent, you know, I put myself on a schedule to spend an hour in guitar and an hour in piano and an hour in Spanish and an hour in this and that. And after 3 weeks, I realized I'm just as tired as I always was. And so the last week, we really slowed down. I wish we'd have done it the first week. So I want to encourage you. It takes time. It takes consultation with your spouse, your work, your boss, all of those things. But we need a day, a week to reflect on what God has done in our life, or else we will think we did it. We need a vacation time. Maybe that's once a year, maybe it's twice a year, whatever it can be, where you're not just out wearing yourself out to see new sights and to go someplace in your bucket list, but you're really thinking about how to slow down. What do you think about those ideas? What are some of the things that you do? I will say, we were just talking about this yesterday, talking about health and our bodies. Doctors recommend, Jim, you can chime in here if you want to. Doctors recommend that you fast 1 day a week. This is health purposes. And then that you fast a 3-day fast once a month, and then a 7-day fast once a year. Now, there's certain things that happen in each of those increments. And what I have seen is that a 3-day fast, at least this is what I've read, the 3-day fast turns on your stem cell production. Stem cells are the creation of new cells in your body. 3 days without food turns on the stem cell production in your body. All of these things that were habits of the early church now are things that we're coming back to say, what is it that I need to do to really have maximum life in my body and life with the Father? Anybody want to speak into what you do in that regard? Jeremy?
Yeah, Holly and I were just listening in and chatting, and one of the things, you know, people from the outside looking in, it looks like we don't ever get those sabbatical times. But what it is, and we recognize that we're in a season right now of radical building, and we've been in that season for a good probably 6 to 8 years. But not that the Lord has not provided rest in between in those moments. I mean, for Pete's sake, we just had 16 days in Europe for our 25th anniversary. So we know how to rest. We know how to take time off and do nothing. We do know that. But one of the things that Holly just said was, you know, we make the moments count. We don't count the moments. I know that might sound cliche, but I would say that the way that we do that, and many of you know that we shape our lives around the place of worship, like present-centered living. When you center your life and make worship the highest priority, it is the first thing on your list. It's the thing that you run to. It's the state of being that you reside in. It's in those moments you find yourself reflecting continually on the goodness of God. You're reflecting on what he's done. You're reflecting on the miracles he's created. You're reflecting on the kindness you're receiving. You're reflecting on the healings that are happening. You're in this constant state of remembering and reflecting on what God has done, is doing, and is going to do. And that has created a space of rest in us that I didn't know was possible. I didn't understand. I didn't know that we could be as busy as we are currently and feel more at rest than I ever have in my entire life. I'm not negating those times where we need a couple days to just unplug from the world. But I want others to know that that rest doesn't necessarily always mean holding still. Rest is more about the meditation of the heart and the mind, and where your heart and your mind find themselves centered and at home. And so I would say that for us, centering our lives on the presence of God through a lifestyle of worship keeps us in the moment, helps us. Carrie, you mentioned at the beginning of this, about going slow enough to be able to appreciate every moment, like soaking up those moments. Well, when you take moments throughout your day to take what we like to call 5-minute vacations, and you just center your heart and your mind on the goodness of God and posture yourself in the place of worship, it helps you enjoy the moment and be really involved in each day that God has given us.
That's powerful, Jeremy. I hear gratitude there. I hear intentionality there. I hear a heart for the Father there, and I hear dynamic relaxation. Sylvia, how are you?
Yes, hello everyone. Yes, well, I would like just to say that I love this topic. I really believe that we need all of us to hear this. And I would like just to add something that is bringing me a lot of rest. I don't have to have an opinion of everything. Sometimes I'm in a conversation, I felt I have to say something. No, I don't have to say anything. That's bring me a lot of rest when I just keep in the, just rest. And the other thing that I truly learned is don't be guilty. This is for me, to have a 10-hour nap. 10-hour nap just to relax and just to hear what the Lord has to say. Because I remember that I used to feel guilty. And I'll say, okay, if I need to have a 10-minute nap just to relax, it's okay. That's my input for today.
So good. Okay.
Amen. One of the pastors my dad used to listen to on the radio would always say that a nap in the afternoon counts twice as much as time at night, sleep at night. So if you take a 30-minute nap, it's equal to an hour of sleep at night. I don't know if that's true, but maybe so. It won't hurt us, will it? Our point is, and I'm going to ask Chiki to wrap us up here tonight. Our point is that in growing in sonship, we stay tuned to the Father's voice. For those of you that are not aware, Jeremy and Holly Gramman up in Roseburg, Oregon, lead worship in their church every morning for an hour. They have an hour of worship and have for years. So when he's talking about busy but living in this dynamic relaxation, it's from a heart of worship. That's so powerful and so true. Anything else you want to share with us?
I'll just share very, very quickly about what the Lord taught me during our sabbatical. So, I thought, okay, I don't have all these responsibilities. So I know there's a book that I've been wanting to write for about 4 years. I'm going to take time to write this book. And so I started off thinking, I'm going to finish writing the book in 5 weeks and it'll be ready for Sons and Daughters Conference. And I was so excited about it. And I set out the first few days. I was very diligent, wasn't I? Very, very diligent. And so I wrote several anecdotes, experiences that I've had with the Lord. And then I'm writing sort of the lesson that comes from each one of those. And so the first one that I was writing on was about rest. About a time when the Lord taught me about rest. And I wrote the chapter and I wasn't happy with it. Like it just, it's just, there's something missing there. So then the next day I wrote the next chapter, different topic. And that one I liked. I was like, okay, now I have to go revisit the one about rest. And I wasn't feeling it. And I was getting frustrated because now I'm wasting this precious time that I have for that. And the Lord said, you're on a sabbatical. You're supposed to be resting. Who told you you had to write a book in 5 weeks? You set that goal for yourself. I didn't set that goal for you. I've given you this time to rest, not to replace one busyness with another. And it seems so silly, but now I realize why I couldn't write the chapter on rest is because I haven't lived it yet. And I certainly wasn't living it at the time that I was trying to write it. But the key thing for me was this: when Jesus says, come to me, all ye who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Part of that is not necessarily that he's calling us to do nothing. And many of us have articulated that here, but is to really be discerning as to why am I doing what I'm doing? One of the topics that we had put on the email was talking about our calling. And I think we can continue on that the next time that we have the Global Sonship Forum. But the idea is, did God say? Did God really call you to do X, Y, or Z? Because there's so many things that vie for attention in our lives. And we can wear ourselves out trying to get so many things done, and so many things that are really unnecessary. They may be good, they may be fulfilling in some sort, but they're really unnecessary. They can be distractions, and they can rob us of rest and reflection and gratitude and, like really the fullness of life that the Father wants for us as his children.
Amen. We're not suggesting that there's a certain parameter, a certain way that you do life and it's always going to work. I've found that the Lord leads me into different pastures like a good shepherd. Even in my devotional life, I'll be having this kind of devotion, using this material, and it's just life-giving. And there comes a point in time when that's over, and Lord, what else do you want? It's a flow. It's a dance, right? It's a river. The river's moving. You're never getting into the same water you got into the last time you got in the river. That water's gone and it's new now. So we learn how to discern that, walk in it, not get frustrated about it, nor condemn ourselves when things seem to be going slow or nothing's working. No, let's enjoy where we are, appreciate the fact that the Father's loving us in every day with us. We're receiving his love, and we're receiving everything that comes to us as a personal gift from a good Father's hand. And the thing that I'm learning to cherish more and more in these years is that relationships is the most valuable thing that we have. It's the only thing we can take with us to heaven is our relationships. That's why I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you. We pray for you. I have a spreadsheet full of names and birthdays, and I just go through and pray over those and do what you've suggested, and that is sometimes, Melinda, just write out a note, send a text, some way to bless people. Isn't he good?
Yes.
Isn't his word good? He says, my words, they are spirit and they are life. And that word words there is not graphe. It's not the scriptures. It's his words spoken to us. When he speaks into our heart, his words are bread from heaven. His words are spirit and life. And I speak that over you today. I just bless you with life from heaven. I bless you with the power, the authority that comes from hearing his voice. And when he says slow down, he's not giving you a suggestion. He's actually giving you words that have the power to help you do that by the Spirit. Amen. Thank God for you and for the sons and daughters that you are. Blessings. Would you keep praying? I want to add this one thought. October the 18th through the 20th, Sons and Daughters Conference. If you can be with us, be with us. It's going to be a wonderful time. We're thinking about what we're going to be doing about the Global Sonship meeting, which is scheduled for the very next day. And I think what we're going to do is sit down and record some interviews with some of our out-of-town guests, and then you'll be seeing those next Monday, that next Global Sonship Conference meeting. What we're going to do at this Global Sonship Conference is going to be very different. Sons and Daughters Conference. We're calling it Sonship 2.0. We're going to be rolling out several new things that the Lord has told us to begin to do. We're not talking about it yet. We're getting our ducks in the row first, but there's several key initiatives that the Lord's called us to that we're going to be doing, and looking forward to sharing that with you. Love you very much. God bless you. Thank you for being with us. We cherish our time with you. Have a great one.
Live and rest. Love y'all.
Dynamic relaxation on each of you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.